Hello and welcome to another episode of Off the Pitch. My name is Mpho Mutlwani. I'm standing in for Malo this week. And remember, most importantly, please do follow us on our social media pages, our various pages. You can also go to offthepitch.co.za to check out some of our previous shows. You know, every Monday we come to you with all the news that's happened in the sporting world. So we're going to start off today, as we always do, with local football. We had the Nedbank Cup, and I've got my man Josta here to discuss all the things that have happened. Josta, how are you doing?
I'm easy. Great weekend, my brother. So looking forward to talking about it.
Watching all the Nedbank Cup while it was raining. There were some upsets that have happened in the quarterfinals. The first one I want to talk about is SuperSport United. They were leading 2-0 at half time. And the one thing I love about SuperSport, they're using their youngsters, but they ended up losing 3-2. What was going on in that game?
Well, that's been the story of like SuperSport the whole season. I mean, it's great to see youngsters coming up, but I think those boys are just giving a coach like grey hairs. You can see him like just getting frustrated week in, week out. I mean, they manage to score goals, but they can't keep that lead. Yes. The last 20 minutes of the games, most of the time, they lose their lead. And that's when you see the inexperience of the youngsters. Yes, we want the youngsters, but you have to mix it up with a bit of
Can I ask you, is Caetano in trouble? Because over the past couple of weeks, SuperSport haven't been winning games. Yes, we're seeing the youth development and we love it. But Jesse Don Gibao, they're playing. Yeah. But they're not converting those good starts or those performances. And is it time to look at maybe finding someone else?
Well, I mean, with SuperSport, they want to keep their status. They want to do well. These are the reigning champions of the Nedbank Cup. They've been knocked out. I think he is in trouble, but are they going to fire him? I don't see him. I don't see the team firing him. Maybe they might demote him a bit, like take him to the youth structure because that's where he's popular at, Maybe then look for another coach, but I don't see him leaving the team. I don't see him leaving the team.
So their next game, Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah.
With fans in the stands. Now, obviously, fans are now allowed to go into the stands.
Yeah.
Do you see them causing an upset against Kaizer Chiefs who are looking to try and chase this trophy that for some of us is already gone?
Kaizer Chiefs got the same problem, right? Kaizer Chiefs, most of the games that when you see them playing against a team that they're supposed to be beating, they don't do well. So the inconsistency of the two teams, it's the same. So I think for me, it's all about the mood of the players. But Chiefs need to win because they want to fight for that Champions League spot. So it's up to them if they really want to beat SuperSport, because SuperSport, yes, they are beatable.
Now let's move on to the other Nedbank Cup quarterfinals. There was a big game that happened yesterday where Royal AM found themselves in a lot of trouble. Another team 2-0 down, but this time they managed to get themselves out as well. Victor Letswalo scoring 2 goals there. He's got 17 goals. But what is Royal AM doing right? Because they are having a great season.
What is Celtics doing right? Mostly, not Celtics. It's just the change of the name. But I think,
even then, Celtics players were always motivated, even though they didn't have money.
Yeah.
But is a change of owner that good?
It's the money. I think money is the motivator in this. Whatever that they're doing, whatever the management is doing, they got to keep on doing it. And you see Letswalo, as a big man, where we've kind of changed the game a bit. We don't look at the target man that much, and he's proving that he's still. If we believe in the strikers, they can do the job for the team. And I mean, Letswalo is just doing so great. But Royal AM 2-0 down, they come back, they win that game 3-2, an amazing result.
So which club is Victor Letswalo going to next year?
See, you were telling me about Sundowns, right? But I mean, it's unfair. I mean, we checked out Sundowns game against Dynamos. a whole different team, a whole different team. I mean, if Letswalo's going to go there, is he going to play regularly?
Yes.
So you got to think about that. Yes, the money is going to be there. I understand that, but two seasons, one season you play 10 games, 5 games, a lot of teams are going to start losing interest. Your confidence is going to go down. If he wants to go there for the money, I don't know, but career-wise, it might be a bad move. For me, you stay with the team. Negotiate with the team. Maybe they might give you that money. At least now you can compete with that Sundowns.
But the other side is Mamkhize. Mamkhize sees a payday got Victor Letswalo because of the transfer fees.
Yeah, but I mean, he can afford it. He's money, right? She's money, yeah. So I think she can. I mean, if Sundowns says, "Okay, we're gonna give you 200K a month," I think she can say, "No, you stay." And they want. I mean, they're gonna play in the Champions League next season. They're looking. I mean, 6 more games to go. If they do well, play in the Champions League, you want your key player to be part of that squad that's going to be in the Champions League.
Well, you've got the semi-finals coming up. We had the semi-final draw, TTM making it in to play Marumo Gallants in an identity semi-final.
Yeah.
Who's the real TTM? They were telling us over the week that no, they're the true champions, even though Marumo Gallants are the ones in the CAF Champions League. It's a Limpopo derby there. How do you see that? TTM have obviously beaten SuperSport United. What is your prediction there?
I think Gallants for me. They play that, Shushan and piano type of football. The coach, dance. I mean, it wasn't an easy game for him, 1-0. But I'll give it to, watching the two teams, TTM and watching Gallants, I think I'll give it to Gallants because of the football type of style that they play.
And let's talk about the other one, the other semi-final. Sundowns, Royal AM, number 1 versus number 3 in the log. Can Royal AM provide an upset?
I mean, Sundowns has been doing so well the whole season, and now they're playing against the second place team, which is like Royal AM. Royal AM has surprised a lot of people. Maybe it might be that one game that can just bring down Sundowns a bit. And this is Nedbank. We've seen a whole lot of miracles happening in this cup game. So I'm excited, but I wish I could have seen Sundowns and a Royal AM in a final, but it's not going to happen. But
hey, look, there's a Limpopo team in the final, but we know where it's going to be held. But there you have it, ladies and gents. Just as giving you his predictions. Final thing, quick one.
Yeah.
Sundowns appointed a technical director or director of football named Fleming Berg. He spent 7 years in the Danish FA. What do you think he's there to do, and do you think it will be quite successful? Because this is not the first time we've seen a technical director.
Yeah, I mean, head of the academy. I mean, obviously development. You can see now they're trying to go into the development structure, trying to rebuild it, trying to bring more youngsters into the first team. But we've seen this thing happening most of the time. The guy comes in, obviously he has to control everything. The style has to be the same, like how the first team is gonna be. Depends on the first team coaches, are they going to listen to him? Okay. So it's all about are they going to be able to... So the
wise men need to listen.
Of course, obviously. Okay. This is a guy who's coming up and he has to be he's the head of development. He's the guy that's going to be saying, okay, you're not doing this right, you have to do it like this. Are the coaches that are sitting up there going to listen to this guy?
Well, there you have it. Are the 3 wise men of Sundowns going to listen to Fleming Berg? Well, we'll have to find out. That is the end of our first segment. We've got more sport coming up and on Off the Pitch. Thank you very much, JD, for coming on. We've got basketball, we've got European soccer to talk about, but we'll do that after the break. Welcome back to Off the Pitch. Segment 1, we had just Lada giving us all the insight into the Nedbank Cup and the semi-finals to come, and also a little bit about what's going on at Sundowns with that technical director appointment, Fleming Berg. We wish you all the best. But the second segment of our show is normally international sport, and so we've got a lot of international sport that happened this weekend. Tiger came back to golf, actually, after 20 months out from his car crash. And he finished 47th in the Masters, but it was really good to see that never say die, that never give up spirit from Tiger. With Scotty Scheffler, the world number 1, he's had the best 53 days in golf, won 4 of the last 6 tournaments he's been in, I beg your pardon. And so that was really good to see a new man in the green jacket. But today, this segment for us today is all about the NBA. The regular season has ended, and now we're going to be moving into the playoffs. And we've got Kawunda to talk about that. Hi, Kawunda, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mpo. Good to see you in the driver's seat there. Is that like a F1 analogy there?
Yes, look, I'm wearing red because Charles Leclerc won, Ferrari, Forza Ferrari. That's what we do. But before we actually talk about the NBA, we had another basketball that's happening here in Africa tournament. The Now Conference of the Basketball Africa League has started.
Yep.
We finished with the Sahara Conference. I was in Dakar. Now we're in Cairo to see the 6 teams in Africa who will make their way to Kigali. What do you make? Because we've got a South African team there. So how important is it to have a South African team there? Because we didn't have one last year.
Look, Mpo, it's actually very important, and it's actually brings joy to the South African basketball fans who've been dying for teams locally to take it to that next level. And the big guys have always been Mozambique and Angola from the Southern African region, in these large basketball gatherings. So now to see Cape Tigers making it.
Yes.
They're debutants; they've never been there before. It's going to be interesting to see how they perform. But the Now Conference has the reigning championships in Zamalek, and
the number 3 team, Petro de Luanda.
Petro de Luanda as well. So there you go. There's Angola again, coming up. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be a nice baptism by fire for them, if you will. It's the big stage. It's an NBA sanctioned league. It's on the continent, and I think it's great to see a South African team representing.
Yes, and to see South African players in the shop window. They did lose to Petro de Luanda last night by 30 points actually, which was that baptism of fire, because I don't think they've ever seen that level of basketball. But that's what happens. They went through the qualifiers, and you just find yourself.
It's growing pains, right? They got to crawl before they walk, and so on and so on. So it's their first time. So we won't hold it against them. But I think that game one was a lesson for them, and they know what kind of firepower they need to bring for game 2.
The next one is Zamalek, so that's going to be quite interesting. But you can watch that game on the various channels that DSTV has. Looking into the NBA, 82-game season is gone now, Kawunda.
Yep.
This is where I come in.
Okay.
The playoffs. It's too long. It's too long an NBA season for me. But I love the playoffs because that is where you see teams try to exploit weaknesses. But the first thing we have this week is something new in the NBA. We've had it last year. It's called the play-in. What is the play-in? Why are teams 9 and 10 or getting a chance to compete when we normally just had the 8 go through from each conference?
Well, I think the NBA figured that it was time to spice things up a bit. Every now and then the NBA thinks considers things getting a little too staid and boring, so they spice it up a little bit. So what the playing game basically does is it allows teams 9 and 10 the opportunity to potentially make it into the playoffs. So what happens is 7 and 8 play for 7th position, then 9 and 10 play for a potential 8th position. So what happens is the one that wins between 7 and 8 goes to automatic 7th position. Then 9 and 10 also play, and the winner of 9 and 10 plays the loser of 7 and 8 for that 8th position. So that makes it a little bit more interesting and allows teams 9 and 10 the opportunity to make it into the top 8.
I was looking at it, and there was a big name there. The Brooklyn Nets. At the beginning of the season, a lot of us thought the Brooklyn Nets and the LA Lakers, who are not in the playoffs, and we'll talk about them later, would make it in. Is it not scary for Brooklyn to be sitting in that position?
I think it is because, they obviously they've got 2 opportunities because they're playing for in the 7th and 8th position. So they've got 2 opportunities to make it into the playoffs. But it is scary. You could have 2 bad games. Yes. And that has happened. You could have 2 bad games.
What is it, 14 or 12, 13, 14 game losing streak?
Yeah. So you can have 2 bad games and wind up watching it from the television like your friends in Los Angeles, the Lakers. So, I think it's pretty interesting that the Brooklyn Nets find themselves in that position, but they haven't had the best of seasons. I mean, when it started, we were like, 3-headed monster. James Harden, Kyrie, Kevin Durant. This is going to definitely be an Eastern Conference Finals appearance or even a potential championship win, but as they say.
Yeah, so let's look at the teams in the current playoffs. What's the team that's most exciting for you to watch, and what's the team that you think might surprise everybody across both conferences?
You see, for me, I'm not even looking at the 1 and 8 matchups because those are like mostly a giveaway. Now I'm looking at more the 7 and 2.
Okay.
So if you look at the number 2 in the Western Conference, the Memphis Grizzlies, and I'm thinking at the moment I can't tell whether it's the Clippers they're going to meet. Okay. Or is it the?
And they haven't won a series.
Or is it the Timberwolves?
Yes.
They're going to meet, and these guys haven't really won a playoff series in their recent history, and now they're taking on a potential Timberwolves, which has always had like short playoff berths, but a Clippers, which was in the Western Conference Finals last season. So I'd like to see what happens there. For me, that 2 and 7 situation.
Is it the same in the East?
In the East as well, because I see Brooklyn Nets making it through. I kind of, although I joke about it, but I think the Nets are going to make it through, and then they're going to have to face the Boston Celtics, and I think that 2 and 7 matchup, that's going to be a monster matchup to watch. Yeah.
Last word, the Lakers. What went wrong?
everything. You know, people want to blame Russell Westbrook. He wasn't playing alone. People want to blame LeBron. Maybe he needs a bulk of the blame. Frank Vogel, who is now the former coach of the Lakers, also he had more rotations than wins, I think, this season. So I think everything went wrong. They put together a whole bunch of old players on veteran minimums, and then the young players. I mean, sometimes Frank Vogel was playing rotations where you're like, but what's going on here? So I think there's a lot of changes to be made, and we have to come to terms with the fact that Anthony Davis will never always be healthy, and like he's more unhealthy than healthy, which is a bad thing to say, but it's a reality for the Lakers, and I think that's the gamble they took when they got him from New Orleans. Yeah. So I think for the Lakers, it was just a bad gamble. They put together this must-win now team, which lost.
Well, it was a bad gamble for the Lakers. You hear that from Kawinda Chama here on Off the Pitch. We'll be back, so don't go away. We're going to go to a break, but don't go away. We'll be back talking European football with Cyrus, the all-rounder, Rogers.
Salah. He's rolled it into the path of Sadio Mane! 2-2! A red blur at the start of the second half! Wow, what next? Whatever he said, he got it right! Liverpool have burst back to life! Well, Ed, for me, the goal is very well tucked away by Sadio Mane, but just watch this from Mo Salah. He just takes an extra touch and then he realises that Walker is slightly out of position and that Mane has got the clear run in behind, and he just finds it with perfection, Mo Salah, and then Mane does the rest, and it's the absolute perfect response to what happened in the first half and what Jurgen Klopp has had to say during the break.
Welcome back to the final segment of our show. We had JD in segment 1 talking Nedbank Cup. We also had Kawinda Chama talking all things NBA playoffs that start later this week. But now for the final section, we've got Mr. All-Rounder Cyrus Rogers to kind of take us through what happened yesterday. There was a big game that happened in the English Premier League, and he'll take us all through all of that, and we'll talk a little Champions League as well. Cyrus, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. My team Chelsea won 6-0. It was a horror week before that, so we needed that.
Well, let's not talk about our teams because mine didn't do anything of substance this weekend. But anyway, Liverpool played Manchester City at the Etihad. It was billed as a title decided. Liverpool were 1 point behind Manchester City, and it felt like it was a must-win game for Liverpool. How did you see that game going? Because it ended in a draw.
It was a really, really overhyped game in terms of just how much they built it up. But the thing was, it was an excellent spectacle to watch. I mean, as a neutral fan, who can be neutral when Liverpool's playing? You either love them or you hate them. But I think the thing about that game was that it was a City masterclass for the majority of it. They really controlled large sections of it. And one of the things for me that has always been a problem with Man City is when you don't play a striker and you've got Raheem Sterling there in front of goal, one-on-one of the keeper, your chances of scoring are not always 80% to 20%. They were definitely in. I mean, Alisson saved.
Well, look, even with Jesus. I kind of felt that no, it wasn't what you would necessarily wanted.
Selection.
And it kind of feels like maybe they should have gone into that Harry Kane little pool a little bit, dip in and pay the money.
There's still time. That's what people will say. I will say this though about that game is that Liverpool have got a sense of resilience that is just unbelievable, and they don't know how to quit. Okay. And that's an incredible thing for this team, because when you're chasing a championship, you have to go out there and give it your all. They were all over the place defensively, pretty much throughout the game. The second half, they were much better organized, knew exactly what they wanted to do. Trent wasn't getting skinned like he was in the first half of that game, and they were able to really impose themselves. But this was a game I felt Liverpool needed to win. And the fact that they got a draw just kept things, almost in City's favor.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because before this match, Liverpool had the momentum. You kind of felt that they were going to do the Max Verstappen pass of Lewis Hamilton, and this was the game they were going to do it. But they never got there. And now we're sitting with fixtures going down, 7 games to go around for both of them. and Liverpool have the harder fixture list compared to Manchester City.
Well, that was always the case, even going into this game. So the need for the victory for Liverpool was quite high. But this was also City saying, if you're going to beat us, make sure you come at us with your best possible shots. And they didn't do that. And I mean, when you look at the Liverpool goals, I'm not going to say that they were scrappy or anything like that. I think they capitalized off some City errors, and that's what you need to do against a team like City who control possession. Whereas when you look at City, they were profligate in front of goal. I like using big words.
Yes.
And the
We're going to have to pull out a dictionary
I mean,
now.
you know, it's ridiculous. But they should have taken their chances. And this is also, when you look at City, you're looking at the champions.
Yes.
And they really don't ever look as if they're having bad runs of form. They'll have one bad game, two bad games. And that's what Pep Guardiola has managed to instill into this team. So I think that they're the kind of team who you have to really bring your A game.
Well, let's go down the log a little bit. The race for top four, the Champions League. Arsenal seem to have the inside track, but they've lost 2 games in a row. Tottenham are now 6 points ahead of the Gunners. Manchester United losing on the weekend to Everton also kind of killed any hopes of them looking for a top 4 space. Is it just Tottenham's now, or is there still a lot more football to go?
Well, let's look at how we've spoken about Man City, that if you'd rather be in front than chasing, right?
Yes.
And Spurs, they've got that momentum right now. They're playing with a really good head of steam. They've got the players playing they need to. And I think the thing that was critical for Spurs was they weren't getting the most out of Son for a while.
Yes.
Harry Kane wasn't necessarily at his best. And Kulusevski, I mean, gosh, he looks like a great signing.
I know.
So all of these
from
things
a bench guy Juventus to banging in goals.
It goes to show you, if you know your football, if you know something like Paratici, who's coming as the director of football, you can get good value anywhere in the market as long as you're willing to take people and say, we'll give you an opportunity to do something. So you look at Arsenal and you look at United, they are in a really tough spot because they do have big games coming up that will be really tough. There's a North London derby in
somewhere
between.
in May.
And Arsenal are going to really, really look to try and push to get a victory there. But this is a different Spurs team. This Spurs team is starting to show some sort of level of determination. So I think Spurs have got the inside track.
Oh, that doesn't make me happy at all. We've got Champions League this week. Quarterfinals happening. We had the first legs. The big game for your team was against Real Madrid. You lost 3-1. Benzema, is he not the best player in the world right now?
He's the best player in Madrid.
In Madrid?
The world, I don't know. I'm a big fan of some of the other guys who play around the world, you know, even in the PSL. But I will say this, though, that it's going to be a very uphill battle for Chelsea. I don't see them coming back to win this one. But Chelsea have come back from 3-1 down in a Champions League tie before against Napoli, and they won the Champions League that season. They'll need something as remarkable as that to beat Real in Madrid. They did it last season. When they won the Champions League. See how I keep throwing these things in there. But I do think that this is Real's to win. And if we look at the other tie, Man City versus Atletico Madrid, I think that Atletico cannot afford to be as defensive as they were in Manchester. They went and lost that game, and a 1-0 doesn't really mean so much these days, but there's no away goals anymore. So really it just is a question of how can Atletico pitch up? Can they keep City quiet? And City were able to show that they are able to do whatever they want to any team. João Cancelo, how is he a defender? I don't understand.
Well, that's for Pep to answer and for us to all figure out. But those are the Champions League fixtures for the week. There are Champions League matches. Please do check them out. But before we close out, Cyrus, just one last thing. Can Villarreal hold on and beat Bayern?
Anything's possible, especially with somebody like Unai Emery, because he's always having a good evening. And I think the thing about Villarreal is that they are the underdogs.
Yes.
There's no expectation, there's no pressure on them. If anything, the pressure's all on Bayern. And will they be able to pull something out of the fire? Definitely, they've got the players for it. But Villarreal have showed you cannot count them out.
Yes, well, that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank all our sponsors, Exco and Genologist, for sponsoring, for all our partners, I beg your pardon, for sponsoring the show. Remember, the Exco competition is still ongoing. Please go to our website at offthepitch.co.za. From myself and Paul and everybody else who's come on the show, Cyrus, Kawenda and Josta, thank you very much. Goodbye, good night, and le sale kakahiso.
Thank you.